My girlfriend said, "I'm going to Sedona with the girls. Stop being paranoid." Turns out it was a freedom trip with her ex's cousin. She drained our farm fund and posted one with the universe, not my boyfriend. It was pouring hard the morning my truck gave up on me. I was already behind schedule, trying to get a load of heirloom tomatoes and fresh eggs to the Saturday farmers market in Kingsport. I had one of those small farms out near Hawkins Hollow, organic, mostly vegetables, a few chickens, and just enough land to keep me broke and busy. That old delivery truck was on its last leg, but I kept pushing it cause a new one wasn't in the cards. Halfway down Route 31, the engine sputtered and died. I coasted onto the shoulder, flashers on, rain pounding so hard I could barely hear myself cuss. No signal. Figures. I grabbed my hat, pulled my coat tight, and waved at the first pair of headlights I saw. She almost passed me. The SUV slowed, stopped a few yards ahead, reverse lights blinking on. I jogged up, mud splashing my boots, heart pounding because who the hell even stops for a stranger anymore? The driver's window slid down. "You okay?" she asked. She had one of those calm, low voices that cut through the storm like it didn't care. "Truck's dead. Was heading into town for the market," I said, tipping my wet cap. "No signal out here. Any chance you've got a phone or can give me a lift?" She looked me over for a beat. Not scared, just assessing, like someone used to emergency situations. "Hop in. I'm heading that way." The inside of her car smelled like coffee and clean clothes. She turned down the radio, introduced herself, Lila. Said she was a vet over in Sycamore and did animal rescue runs on the side. She was coming back from picking up a stray dog that had been hit by a car. The crate in the backseat held a Sleepy Lab mix with a bandaged leg. "I'm Raphael," I told her. "Thanks for stopping." Most folks would have flown right by. She smiled sideways at me, then nodded toward the glove box. "There's a towel in there if you want to dry off." By the time we reached the edge of town, we were laughing about her worst house calls and my worst chicken-related injuries. I told her how one of my hens once chased off a raccoon. She said I should write children's books. "Rain doesn't seem to be letting up," she said, pulling into the 24-hour diner off Main. "You hungry?" "Always," I said, and that was how we ended up sharing pancakes and burnt coffee at a corner booth while the storm raged on outside. It was easy with her. Real easy. Like I'd known her longer than the half hour I had. She talked with her hands, asked questions that made me feel like I mattered. After the second refill, I asked if I could buy her breakfast. She said she was already covering mine, said she owed me a smile after all that mud I tracked into her car. We exchanged numbers before she dropped me off at home. She even offered to help me get the produce into town next weekend, said she liked the idea of a farmer's market side hustle. That was 3 years ago, and we've been together ever since. Funny how a broken truck on a rain-soaked highway can change your whole damn life. A few weeks before spring planting, Lila came home with a brochure in her hand and that tone in her voice, the one she used when she'd already made up her mind but wanted it to sound like a suggestion. "Me and a couple girlfriends are thinking of doing a wellness retreat," she said, flipping through glossy pages covered in sunsets and women sitting cross-legged on yoga mats. "Sedona. Just a week. You'd be fine here without me, right?" I was at the kitchen table doing inventory for the co-op order, the boring part of farming. I looked up. "A couple girlfriends. Huh?" "Yeah. Jill, Amanda, maybe Bree. You know, from the animal shelter." I nodded, but something about the way she said it didn't sit right. It was too rehearsed. Like she'd been practicing it in the car on the way home. "What's it for again?" I asked. "Just yoga and massages and stuff?" "Yeah, kinda. Detoxing. Mindfulness. A reset. It's been a stressful winter." That part one didn't argue. Winter had been brutal. Between frozen pipes, supply shortages, and my mom ending up in the hospital for a week, we were both burned out. But still, something about the timing, or maybe just her expression, made the back of my neck go tight. "Who all's going?" I asked again, trying to sound casual. Lila's mouth thinned. "I just told you. You said maybe Bree." "Maybe. What about Amanda's husband? He going?" She rolled her eyes. "Why does it matter?" "I'm just asking," I said, closing the notebook. "You've been stressed, yeah. But now you're flying off to the desert and suddenly I'm not even supposed to ask who you're going with?" Lila dropped the brochure on the table like it burned her. "You always do this, Raphael. You make everything about control." "What?" I blinked. She stood, arms crossed, voice rising. "I tell you I need space for one damn week and suddenly I'm sneaking around? God, can you hear yourself?" It wasn't like her to go from calm to furious that fast. And it definitely wasn't like her to accuse me of being controlling. That word landed heavy, like a slap. I tried to backpedal. "I'm not accusing you of anything. I've never even met some of these people." "That's because you never want to come anywhere," she snapped. "You're happy to sit here in your field and count tomatoes, but God forbid I want to do something for myself." That ended the conversation. The night before she left, I came in from the barn and saw her sitting on the couch, scrolling on her phone. Every time I walked past, she turned the screen away. Once, I caught a glimpse of a guy's profile picture, some bearded dude wearing beads and no shirt. I didn't say anything. She left early the next morning with her yoga mat, her hiking boots, and a kiss on the cheek like nothing was wrong. I watched the taillights disappear down the gravel road, and all I could think was, something's off. I didn't know what, but my gut knew it. I just didn't press it any further. Not yet. It was the third day of Lila's retreat when I noticed something weird on our bank account. I'd logged in to transfer money for some greenhouse repairs, just a routine thing. But right there on the activity feed were charges I didn't recognize and definitely didn't expect from a supposed wellness retreat. First one, Verde Springs Resort, for $162.50. Then another, Sage and Stone Spa, $310. Then a wine tasting at some place called Coyote Ridge Cellars, $198. I stared at the screen, jaw set. She told me it was yoga and detox, green juice, a reset, not full body spa packages and luxury wine pairings. I screenshotted the transactions and texted her. Me, hey, just saw some charges on the card. Everything okay out there? No reply. Later that night, I did what I never thought I'd do in our relationship. I checked her social media. Not her posts. Those were all off-grid. She'd been proudly telling me about unplugging for the week. No, I checked the tagged photos. That's when it hit me like a punch to the gut. There she was, wrapped in a hotel robe next to a pool, holding a glass of wine. The caption, Desert Goddess Mode activated #Findiorsander. She wasn't alone. Sitting next to her, real close, was a guy I recognized from somewhere, though I couldn't place him. Next tag at Spirit Daddy Vibes. I clicked. This guy had a whole feed of Sedona sunsets, shirtless yoga poses, and crystals arranged in circles. Half the photos featured Lila. One in particular made my stomach drop. It was a short video, grainy but clear enough. Lila in a hot tub, giggling, straddling the edge while this spirit daddy leaned in and kissed her neck. Someone in the background shouted, "She's really finding her center now." And the camera shook with laughter. The caption read, "One with the universe, not my boyfriend." I froze. For a few seconds I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. I watched it again just to be sure I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't. I clicked through more tags, more stories. One showed her hiking arm in arm with that same guy. Another had her at a fancy glamping tent, smiling as they unzipped the flap and slipped inside. Someone behind the camera joked, "Don't forget your yoga mat. You'll need it." The comments were full of emojis. People cheering her on, laughing, tagging each other. But no mention of me. No trace of our 3-year relationship. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I just stood in the middle of the kitchen, hands shaking, scrolling through lie after lie after lie. I defended her. Let her go without a fight. Told myself I was being paranoid. Now I felt like an idiot. A bearded guy in beads had replaced me in less than 72 hours, and the whole internet was watching. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the porch with a bottle of whiskey and watched the stars come out, same as I always did when the world got too loud. Except this time, the silence didn't help. I wasn't angry yet. I was still just stunned. Hollow. But that would change. Oh, it would change real soon. Lila's bus was scheduled to roll into Kingsport at 6:15 p.m. on Sunday. By 9 a.m., I'd already changed the locks. I didn't text her, didn't call, didn't leave a note. I just woke up that morning, walked into the kitchen, and something in me said, no more. I unscrewed the spare key from under the porch rail and tossed it in the trash. Called Hal from town, the same guy who'd helped install the locks when we first moved in together, and told him I needed them swapped out. No questions. While he worked on the doors, I started collecting everything she'd left behind. Half my living room was still covered in her stuff. Yoga blocks, a fuzzy throw blanket, some overpriced skincare bottles cluttering the bathroom sink. I didn't touch anything with my bare hands. I grabbed a pair of feed gloves and started tossing it all into moving boxes. By noon, I'd packed up every scarf, serum, and ethical sandal she owned. Then came the hard part of her gear. Her precious hiking boots, her REI day pack, even the Go Doffel Soul Cleanse hoodie she wore on every road trip. All of it went straight into my truck bed. And then I drove. The donation center at the animal shelter she volunteered at was closed, so I left the boxes on their back step with a note, "Belongs to Lila. No need to return." That felt like justice. Back home, I tossed her half-used shampoo bottles in the dumpster, deleted our Spotify playlists, took the photo of us at the lake off the fridge and burned it in the fire pit behind the barn. By mid-afternoon, I felt like I was detoxing, not just from her lies, from the whole illusion we'd been living in. All the moments I'd brushed off her cold spells or weird phone behavior. All the times I'd caught her smiling down at her screen and assumed it was harmless. Around 4 p.m., the text started. "Lila, hey babe, landed early. Be home soon. Lila, can you pick me up? Lila, Raf. Lila, are you mad? What's going on? Lila, where are you? I watched each message roll in from the porch without responding. At 6:20 p.m., the final one came. Lila, why the hell is the key not working? I locked my phone, walked into the house, made dinner like it was any other night. An hour later, the tone of the messages changed. Gone was the bubbly emoji energy. Now it was rage. Lila, open the goddamn door, Raphael. Lila, you can't do this. This is illegal. Lila, I swear to God if you donated my stuff. Lila, I'm calling a lawyer. This is harassment. Then silence. But she didn't disappear. No, she sent reinforcements. At 9 p.m., my parents got their first call from Lila's mom, accusing me of being abusive, saying I'd trapped and discarded her daughter like garbage. By morning, I heard from my cousin that she'd posted about escaping a toxic home on Facebook. I didn't respond. I just deactivated every account I had and disappeared from view. Lila thought she could lie her way out of it, but I was done giving her air. Done giving her anything, especially a place to come home to. The first time I saw her again, she was sitting on a folding chair at the end of my gravel driveway. It was a Tuesday morning, fog still clinging to the treetops, dew heavy on the grass. I was heading out to haul compost, coffee in hand, when I saw her, legs crossed, hoodie pulled tight, duffel bag at her feet. She didn't look surprised when I opened the door. She just looked tired. I've got nowhere else to go, she called out, like that was supposed to mean something. I didn't say a word. Just walked past her to the barn, heart hammering in my chest. Part of me wanted to scream. The other part just wanted her gone. I stayed outside for hours, moving hay that didn't need moving, fixing fence wire that wasn't broken. By the time I came back around, she was still there. But now she had company. Her mom's car had pulled up. Then her dad. They all stood near the gate like it was a courtroom, and I was the defendant. Her father, a thick-necked man with a voice made for yelling at baseball games, marched up and started in. What the hell is wrong with you? He snapped. You dumped my daughter on the street like she's trash? I said nothing. You locked her out of a house she helped build. I almost laughed. The only thing she ever helped build was a smoothie. I should knock you flat, he growled, stepping closer. I didn't move. Just looked him dead in the eye. I'd think real hard about that. He stared at me for a second, then turned and stormed back to his car, muttering curses the whole way. But that wasn't the worst of it. That was just the warm-up. 2 days later, Lila's voice showed up at my co-op stall. I was loading fresh squash when she cornered me between the display crates and the register. Her tone was soft, performative. The kind of voice you use when there's an audience. Raph, can we please talk? I'm hurting too. Shoppers paused. A few glanced over. Someone pretended to look at onions but didn't move. I kept my hands busy, didn't meet her eyes. Not here. But she didn't care. She tilted her head, stepped in closer. Tell me what I did that was so unforgivable, she said, voice cracking just loud enough. I made a mistake, okay? But you're punishing me like I'm a criminal. Then she pulled out her phone and started recording. Just tell everyone why you locked me out. Why you dumped my clothes. Why you cut me off financially when I have nothing. My jaw clenched. She was staging it. A script. A setup. One of the older vendors walked over. Everything all right, Raphael? Lila turned to her like she'd been waiting for that cue. He threw me out with no warning, she said. Said I was dead to him. After I gave him 3 years of my life. I grabbed my bag and walked off. Didn't say a word. Because I knew anything I said would be edited, chopped up, turned into a sob story she could post online. Sure enough, that night, her version went live. A reel of blurry photos, her in a hoodie, staring out into the rain. A caption, 3 years of love. One locked door. One cold heart. Then screenshots, half conversations, out of context. A few from me asking about her trip, cropped to look controlling. One from a month ago where I joked, don't go finding your next husband in the desert. That one? Framed like abuse. The comments lit up with sympathy. You deserve better, girl. He sounds toxic. Men like that hide behind quiet and charm. Stay safe. And just like that, I became the villain. But I stayed silent. Not because I was weak, because I was calculating. She thought she could smear me in front of a few strangers. She didn't realize I was already building a wall of truth behind the scenes. Brick by careful brick. It started with a letter from her lawyer. A neatly typed envelope showed up in my mailbox about 2 weeks after the smear campaign began. Inside, a formal notice threatening legal action for destruction of property and emotional distress. They wanted reimbursement for her missing items, compensation for the canceled trip, and a formal apology. An apology. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the mail in the chicken coop. But I didn't ignore it. I took it straight to Davis, a lawyer in town who used to buy my sweet corn and owed me a favor. He read it, flipped through the pages, then looked up at me over his glasses. Let's turn over some rocks, he said. That night, I dug into old emails. Not texts, emails. The kind Lila never deleted because she assumed I never read them. I found a chain from January. Subject line, Sedona escape plan. It was between her and someone named JSP. The first few messages were about flights and room upgrades, but as I kept scrolling, the tone shifted. Jace, does Owen know you're coming with me? Lila, he's the one who suggested it. He's been on off since November anyway. Jace, Raphael won't freak out? Lila, he still thinks I'm going with Jill and Bree. He won't ask questions. He never does. My chest went cold. Owen. That name had come up before. Her ex. The guy she said she was cordial with. They dated in college, years before we met. I hadn't thought twice about it. Maybe I should have. But the universe has a funny way of tipping its hand when it's ready. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Raphael? The guy asked. This is Owen. At first, I almost hung up. But something in his voice stopped me, flat, tired, like someone finally ready to unload a burden. I just thought you should know the truth, he said. He told me they'd been seeing each other on and off for months. Since winter. Around the time she started going to book club on Thursdays and coming home with that fake eucalyptus scent from her sound bath classes. Owen wasn't proud of it. He admitted it had gotten messy. Said Lila had lied to both of us, made it seem like I was controlling, distant. Like she had no choice. He sent screenshots. Dozens. Texts where she called our farmhouse claustrophobic. Photos from the Sedona trip, the same ones I'd seen online, only this time, uncropped. One with her hand in his lap. Another of them kissing under a neon sign that read, "Shed your shame." Most damning was a spreadsheet she had shared with him, titled Joint Farm Budget, March Allocations. It showed line items like $600, marketing materials, actually her Sedona resort bill, $1,200, soil testing and upgrades, really a spa balance paid with our co-op card. She'd been bleeding money out of our farm fund for months, disguising it as expenses I never thought to double-check. I sat at the kitchen table until midnight, just staring at everything. She hadn't just cheated. She'd planned it, layered it, lied about it to my face with a smile and a kiss. She'd been siphoning off my trust dollar by dollar, night by night, while calling me insecure. Now I had everything. Paper trails, screenshots, bank records, and a phone call from the guy she used to love, who now couldn't stand to be used by her anymore. The truth wasn't just ugly. It was meticulous. She hadn't found her center. She'd just buried her tracks. And now, it was time to dig them up. By the following Monday, I had Davis file the paperwork. Subpoenas for Lila's financial transactions. Archived social media content. Access to our shared farm account history going back 6 months. We weren't going to court yet, but I wanted her to know that if she pushed, I'd push back harder. The first domino fell that same afternoon. Lila's lawyer, some junior associate from a downtown firm who clearly hadn't read past the opening paragraph of her case, emailed Davis about settling this amicably. No mention of the damages. No more mention of her spa robe or her missing hiking poles. They wanted to talk. We met in a rented conference room 2 days later. I came in with copies of everything. Her email threads, her bank transfers labeled as farm expenses, the screenshots from Owen, the invoice showing her $1,200 glamping bill disguised as agricultural outreach. Her side had 1 folder. I had 5. Davis didn't say much. He just laid everything out like it was a harvest. Row after row of receipts, printouts, and digital logs. At one point, her lawyer cleared his throat. Do you plan to go public with this? He asked. I don't plan anything, I said. But I don't delete truth to protect liars. That's when the tone changed. They offered to settle. Quietly. Said Lila would drop all legal claims in exchange for confidentiality. No public mention. No retaliation. No court. And she'd pay me back. $9,000 in damages. Her lawyer said, like it was generous. Full reimbursement. We'd appreciate if Mr. Santos kept the details private. For everyone's sake. Davis looked at me. I didn't answer right away. Because I knew what they really wanted. Silence. They wanted to stop the bleeding before it reached her precious followers, her yoga friends, her parents who still thought I was the unstable one. They weren't offering $9,000 for what I'd lost. They were offering it to buy my mouth shut. I leaned forward. You think I care about the money? I said. You think I'd trade my name for $9 grand? Lila didn't look up. She hadn't since I walked in. I stared at her, waiting for something. An apology. A twitch. A blink. Nothing. Finally, I nodded. I'll take the deal, I said. But don't mistake that for silence. Davis raised an eyebrow, then slid the papers across the table. We'll put it in writing. No gag clause. Her lawyer hesitated. If he posts about this. There's no defamation if everything's true, Davis cut in. And it is. They signed. She signed. She still didn't look at me. When it was done, I stood and slid the check into my jacket. As I turned to leave, I said quietly, mostly to myself, you didn't just lose me. You lost the version of yourself that looked decent by standing next to me. I walked out into the late afternoon sun, light filtering through the windows of a law office I never thought I'd set foot in. My boots echoed down the hall. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel bitter. I just felt clear. She tried to paint me as unstable, controlling, cruel. But now I had the proof, the papers, and the signatures to prove otherwise. Let her keep her crystals and staged apologies. I had the truth, and that was worth far more than anything she ever stole. The first Saturday of the new season, I opened a booth at the Riverbend Farmers Market. It wasn't Kingsport. I wasn't going back there, not after the way she poisoned the well, but Riverbend had charm. Smaller, tighter, quieter. My kind of crowd. Folks who asked about your crops, not your Instagram. I had a new sign, a fresh batch of seedlings, and enough late spring arugula to keep the regulars happy. Business was steady all morning. Then, around noon, the air shifted. I saw her before she spoke, Lila, weaving through the crowd like she belonged there, like she hadn't burned every bridge between us. She wore a long cardigan and sunglasses too big for her face, as if a disguise could erase the wreckage she'd left behind. She walked straight up to the booth like we were still together. Like I might smile and ask how her retreat went. "Raph," she said, all soft-spoken and broken. "Please, can we talk?" I didn't look up from the cash box. "No." "Just 5 minutes," she said. "You don't even know what really happened." "I know enough. That should have been the end of it." But Lila didn't come for closure. She came to perform. She stepped around the table, voice rising just enough for nearby customers to hear. "I made a mistake, okay? I thought I needed space, and I got lost in it. He manipulated me. I didn't know how to get out. I didn't even like him, not really." People started watching. A couple holding kettle corn moved a few feet away, pretending to browse radishes while sneaking glances. I looked up. "Go home, Lila." She blinked fast, like tears were waiting in the wings. "Don't you miss me? Don't you remember any of it?" "Yeah," I said. "I remember you lying to my face." Something behind her cracked then, whatever thread of patience she'd been clinging to. The fake sadness snapped like a twig. Her voice dropped, sharp now. "If you won't talk to me, I'll go back online. I still have messages. I still have screenshots. You think you won, but I can ruin you." That's when I pulled out my phone and hit record. "Go ahead," I said calmly. "Say that again." Her eyes widened. "Are you serious? You're threatening to lie publicly. In front of customers. Witnesses. Go on." She reached out and smacked the phone from my hand. It hit the gravel hard. And just like that, the game changed. One of the market volunteers rushed over. "Is everything okay here?" Another vendor stepped closer. I saw her hit his phone. Lila's face paled. She turned, muttered something about feeling unsafe, and walked off fast, cardigan flapping behind her like a bad ending to a worse movie. I picked up my phone. Still recording. That night, she texted me. "Lila, I just wanted to talk. You didn't have to humiliate me. Lila, you're being cruel. Lila, please, can we just meet one-on-one? Lila, I miss you." I didn't reply, because I knew what that was. Not regret. Just a habit, reaching for control one last time, and finding nothing left to hold on to. Lila didn't show up again after that. I heard through a mutual vendor at the co-op that she was staying with her parents again, back in their spare bedroom in Franklin, the one with the floral wallpaper and an old treadmill no one used. The same place she swore she'd never return to. Funny how quickly people run back to comfort once the lies catch up. She'd lost her job at the clinic. Officially, it was for repeated unexcused absences and conduct unbecoming, but word got around. The Sedona trip, the drama, the live streams, it all made its way through the local vet community. Turns out, not every employer wants to be part of someone's soap opera. Her friend circle dried up too. Jill unfollowed her. Bree stopped defending her online. Even Amanda, her ride or die, removed her name from the shared rescue spreadsheet. When I ran into Amanda at the feed store, she just shook her head. "She dragged us all into her mess," she said. "Nobody wants to clean up after it." And me? I moved on. Not all at once. Not in some triumphant montage, but in slow, honest steps. I pulled my old truck around back and finally gutted the engine like I'd been meaning to. I replanted the north field with wildflowers and started a community plot with another small grower named Mason, quiet guy, good with herbs. I got a new stall at a nearby market and made it mine. Different town, different people, no baggage. And one Sunday morning, while unloading seedlings, a woman named Nora stopped by. She wore dusty boots and had dirt under her fingernails, the good kind, the kind that means you worked. We talked about compost, then heirloom beans, then somehow about music and dogs and our favorite stupid movies. We've gone out a few times since. Nothing serious. Nothing defined. But it's been honest. No games. No filtered versions of ourselves. I told her everything up front. She didn't flinch. Just said, "Sounds like you let the storm pass instead of chasing it." And yeah, maybe that's what I did. I'm not rich. I'm not famous. I still pull splinters out of my hands at the end of the day and fall asleep with mud on my boots sometimes. But I'm at peace. Lila lost her job, her reputation, her circle. I lost my illusions and gained my freedom. Sometimes folks at the market still ask, "Hey, weren't you the guy from that whole thing with the vet?" And I just smile and say, "Used to be. Used to be." Past tense. Now, I'm just Raphael. Farmer. Rebuilder. Man who finally got his name back. And that's more than enough. The last time I ever thought about Lila, really thought about her, was at a local fundraiser for the Riverbend Food Pantry. It was a warm evening in late May. The kind where the air still smells faintly of rain, and everyone's a little friendlier because the sun stayed out longer than expected. I donated a couple crates of surplus produce, and the organizers invited me to stay for the dinner. Nothing fancy, folding chairs, plastic cups, paper plates stacked high with potluck casseroles. My kind of crowd. I was halfway through a sweet tea when someone tapped me on the shoulder. "Raphael?" I turned. It was Owen. Older looking than I remembered from the photos, leaner, like life had wrung some things out of him. He had a baby blue button-up on and that same nervous energy I'd picked up on during our call months back. "I wasn't sure if you'd be here," he said. "Didn't expect to see you either," I replied. He nodded slowly, then shoved his hands in his pockets. "I owe you more than one apology." I didn't say anything. Just waited. "I thought I knew what I was getting into," he said. "Thought Lila had changed." But he stopped, shook his head. "She's done this before. With me. With other people. It's a pattern. You didn't deserve any of it." It didn't hit me until then how badly I'd needed to hear that. "Appreciate it," I said, meaning it. "She ever tell you about the restraining order my sister filed?" I blinked. "No. Didn't think so." He laughed, bitter and tired. "After everything came out, her best friend cut her off too. Said she tried to drag her into some fake testimony scheme. She even admitted Lila asked her to write a witness statement about you, one that never happened." I exhaled slowly, feeling something I hadn't felt in a while, closure, I guess. Or something close to it. "She's back with her parents," Owen said. "I think she's trying to start over." Again. I nodded. "Let her." He offered a weak smile. "You're a better man than me." "Nah," I said. "I just got tired of being angry." He clapped me on the shoulder and left me there with my tea and my thoughts. Later that night, on the drive home, I pulled into the gravel lot of the women's shelter just outside of town. No fanfare, no big moment. Just an envelope with a check inside, made out for the same amount Lila had once stolen from our farm account. In the memo line, I wrote, "For starting over the right way." I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. Some things didn't need to be public. Not everything was a stage or a post. Some things were just quiet victories. And I'd had mine. Finally.